Hi and welcome to Z Games. Recorded live at 4ZZZ Studios in Brisbane and broadcast nationally over the Community Radio Network, Z Games brings you the latest gaming news, reviews and interviews from across Australia and around the world.
You are listening to Z Games, Australia's premier video game radio program, coming to you live from the 4ZZZ Studios in Brisbane and also perhaps coming to you around the nation on the Community Radio Network. I am Lee. Joining me for this episode, we have Razor.
Hello.
Mr. Jody Macgregor.
Hello.
And Ms. Candi Payne.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah. Razor, what happens on this show?
We talk about video games, and we try and avoid physical confrontations while we're doing it.
We try to avoid that, yes.
Just take all the fun out of it, then.
Yeah. So this episode, we have a bunch of games that we would like to talk about, and we'll have to see how many of them we'll get through. But
we'll make a game out of it.
Yeah, sure. First up, Helldivers. Lee, you've been playing that?
I have, yes.
Jody, you've been playing Druids Duel.
Yep.
Candi, you've been playing Oscura Second Shadow.
Yes.
And I've been playing Paranautical Activity.
Have you? That's nice.
Yep. Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. That's great.
So any that we missed this week because of time will continue next week. So that's very exciting, isn't it, guys?
Mm.
Hooray! Champagne radio.
Good game. Yeah.
What were we just listening to?
That was taken from the Borderlands... Tales from the Borderlands soundtrack, Jody.
That's right, it was in episode 1. It's Busy Earnin' by Jungle.
It's a cool song.
Mm-hmm.
Kick ass. Later on, we'll be hearing some music from the Hotline Miami 2 soundtrack.
Cool.
A game that, unfortunately, is not being released in Australia.
Not so cool.
Yeah.
We'll just have to listen to the music and pretend.
Yeah.
Just imagine what it's like.
Yeah.
But let's get this episode started with the Week in Gaming News headlines. Candi.
Thank you, Reza. The Turkish government will consider banning Minecraft after a report by the country's Family and Social Policies Ministry concluded that the game was too violent for children. The report noted that the game was based on violence as the player is able to kill animals such as cows, sheep and chickens for resources as well as the hostile monsters. Though much more graphically violent games such as Call of Duty Advanced Warfare are available in Turkey, the ministry declared that Minecraft is a problem because it is marketed at children.
That's all I have.
Oh, great.
I thought I'd have a bit more
Good
to
response.
say. But yeah.
Heists are now available in Grand Theft Auto Online 18 months after the launch of the game. Players will be able to engage in what has been described as massive multi-layered 4-player co-op missions, hinted at during the single-player campaign. 5 heists will be available to start with, and the update also includes new content like weapons, vehicles and challenges. Players may have to be patient though, as there are reports that the servers are not handling the increased traffic. The added content will be included with the PC version when it's released on the 14th of April.
Another timely release from Rockstar. Are you excited about this, Razor?
I am.
Yeah.
I plan on getting the PC version, actually. I don't know why I'm excited about it, because I've played the game already a bunch of times, but yeah, PC version, it's going to be awesome.
Cool.
And 18 months is not too long for you to want to come back to it.
Not really.
That's just long enough,
It's just
actually.
long enough?
I've forgotten all of the things that annoyed me about it now.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
The heist, it's just an extra reason to incentivize me to come back to playing it, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Australia will begin a 12-month trial of an international rating system for mobile and online games. The system, set up by the International Age Rating Coalition and currently used in 36 countries, sees game developers completing a questionnaire about the content of the game to be eligible for a rating. The tool then assigns a rating to the game based on standards set by local authorities. The trial begins next month.
Hopefully that makes it easier for developers to get games through and released here. One interesting thing that came out of this is that they revealed that in order for anyone to release anything in Australia that has like a 3D component or like 3D movies, they have to go through separately to the 2D stuff for some reason. So to classify like a movie or a game or anything that has, 3D goggles or whatever, you have to send it through twice or multiple times.
Really?
That's just how bad our system is and how finicky it gets.
Are we going to have something similar for 3D games?
No, they've just taken this out. They used to, and they only just, as part of this action, they've just gone, you don't have to do that anymore, just put it through once.
Oh, good.
So now's the time to put out that 3D game and just hide all the wangs in it.
Yes, exactly.
Speaking of, nice segue, we got some bonus news. Ollie.
Bonus news.
Bonus news.
Yeah, nice. You should take that as a win.
Should I?
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
yours. That's all you.
Thank you.
Yeah. State of Decay, which came out last year, I think, on the Xbox and PC, is getting an HD remake. And the developers, Undead Labs, when they were going through the resources to put out the new high-resolution version, discovered that the person they subcontracted the skyboxes and backgrounds out to had hid what he said was a ridiculous amount of genitalia into the background. So they were not visible in the retail release because they were too low res, but they had to go through and change all of these assets and ensure that they weren't working with that guy when they put out the PS4 and Xbox One version.
Why get rid of them? I just figure it could have been added to the interwebs, as like when people went through Disney and they found all of the, penises that were hidden in Disney films. And I just think how great we could have just added this to that treasure trove of phallic symbols.
I think the reason they took them out is because it takes 100 years to get things through a rating system, as we just discussed. And if you suddenly have a ridiculous amount of penises in your video game, probably not going to get accepted in a lot of parts of the world.
Shame.
Yeah.
It was funny.
Because even if it's not visible to players, if it's still in the code, then it's in violation of the classification system, right?
Well, if it's accessible in any way, yeah.
Yeah, boring.
Candi, if you'd like to see penises, we were looking at the internet earlier. Your phone has, there's a veritable cornucopia there anytime you want.
Yeah, it's not the same.
Okay. All right, so you're not going to buy a State of Decay now?
No, all the fun's been taken out. No, I'm kidding. Let's move on. That's all I got in the news this evening. Thanks, Razor.
Thank you very much. Okay, that's it for this week in Gaming News Headlines. You're listening to Z Games.
Razor, you've been playing Paranautical Activity.
Yes.
I want to keep saying paranormal. It's got nothing to do with that, does it? It's
Yeah, well, it's a play on the word paranormal.
Got it.
Yes. But it was most famous for the fact that one of the developers, in a rage, tweeted some death threats at Gabe Newell, who is the CEO and founder of Valve, who is basically the guy who decides what games live and die online.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So that wasn't a smart idea.
No. But
But now we've heard of his game.
That's pretty much it. So what happened was, there was a bit of a kerfuffle about the labeling of the game. The guy got upset because there was the game was on Steam, but it was labeled as early access instead of a full release. Said some nasty stuff about Gabe Newell, including "I'm going to kill him." Got back to him, and then he just said, "I don't want to do any business with these guys anymore." So they fired the guy. He's off the team, but then he came back to the team, and they've severed relations with that developer. But the developer has actually sold off the property to a distributor. And that distributor has gone and put the game back on Steam. So that just came out like a couple of weeks ago.
Is there any way that we can take advantage of this and go through the same process somehow and suddenly get that same word of mouth that Paranautical Activity has?
I'm not sure.
What do you mean, like us as the radio show?
Yeah.
Who can we send death threats to get famous, is what Lee's saying.
Yeah.
I don't want to sit next to Lee anymore.
No, I'm not going to be sending the death
I?
threats. I think that Candi should, because she's known
Would I be
to
good at it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I think.
And then when we can just sort of disown her comments and then bring her back on board.
Hey,
and
any
all will
publicity
be
is good publicity, as in the case of this game.
Well, that's right, because when I saw this game come through, I was like, that's that game where that guy tweeted the death threat.
The crazy person.
Yeah.
It's already on my radar, so it works.
Yeah.
But anyway, the game is it's got some pretty clear inspirations. The art style is a voxel style, popularized mainly by Minecraft. So everything's in those, those 3D blocky kind of looking graphics.
Yeah.
Yeah. With basically the gameplay of Doom or Quake, one of those high-paced first-person, old-school first-person shooters, and with everything else taken from that.
Pick a game. Say something.
What was that Super Meat Boy's other game? The RPG.
Yeah. Super Meat Boy. What about it?
Yeah. Anyway, it's like a roguelike RPG. I'll have to find out the name of that game. It just escaped my brain, unfortunately.
The Binding of Issac.
Yeah, the Binding of Issac.
Right.
Yeah,
So nothing
right.
to do with Super Meat Boy.
No. Well, it's the same
developer.
Yeah.
So is it on a boat? Why is it called nautical?
It's technically on a
paranautical.
submarine,
Okay,
but
that'll work.
the enemies you face are somewhat aquatic in nature. But there's also some random hellspawn type demons chucked in for good measure. So there's sharks that swim through the ground, even though the ground appears to be metal or stone.
Land sharks.
Yeah. And turtles, flying turtles with shoulder-mounted rockets.
That's impressive.
Yeah. And then there's
that's a new evolutionary development for them.
Yeah. And there's also like giant skulls that fly through the air and spit spiders at you. Demons, and satyrs and stuff like that.
Satyrs.
Yeah.
Really?
So that sounds pretty weird so far.
Yeah, so there's not really much of an introduction to the game. You're kind of just thrown into this space. And the first room you go into, the door shuts behind you, and you have to basically just shoot all these enemies. And you run around, and it's not terribly exciting because the enemies are like... they're on these fixed sort of patterns.
Yeah.
There's not much intelligence to them. They've kind of got their own rotation of abilities, and they always shoot at you and they never miss. So the way to progress is basically to do a lot of strafing and backpedaling. And once you clear the room, a whole bunch of loot drops, you pick it up, and then you're on to the next one. And it's procedurally generated, so every time you play, it's a sort of slightly different experience.
Being set on a submarine, does that alter it in any way? Like, that just makes it sound like a whole lot of tunnels and corridors.
Or a single tube.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just a labyrinth-style, like, levels. They're different levels, 8 levels. I don't know how a submarine has levels.
Is it more like an aquatic base or something?
No. Basically,
It is
it's
a
set on
submarine.
it's set on a submarine, but it doesn't... Like, that's what it says in the manual.
Right.
In the game, there's no relation to a submarine whatsoever.
These corridors could be anywhere.
Yeah, it could be anywhere. Yeah, the problem I have with the game is that it doesn't give you much of a tutorial. It doesn't hold your hand to guide you through what the game's about or anything like that.
You just told us you're on a submarine, you're shooting at satyrs.
Yeah, but I had to work all that stuff out for myself.
How long did that take? Like, as soon as the satyr enters the room and you have to shoot it, you're like, I get this now.
Yeah. So stuff drops, you pick it up, and there's a whole bunch of items to pick up, and you can also...
Can you do anything with them?
Well, all of the items do stuff like increase your stats, like maybe it makes you shoot faster or run faster, double jump, and things like that.
What kind of weapons do you shoot these satyrs with?
You can choose between a variety of loadouts. I guess they're different characters that you can choose to start the game as.
Right.
There's a guy with a crossbow, there's a guy with a shotgun, and there's a guy with a grenade launcher.
This is
stuff
exciting
like
stuff, yeah.
that. Yeah.
Are you enjoying this game?
It's a bit of fun. It's actually... I like that it's different, but the
You
shooting...
have failed to sell this entire time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where's your enthusiasm, Ray?
I can't really be enthusiastic about it because it's a bit rough. It's a bit unpolished.
You said it was fun. Here, Candy, sell this, right?
Me sell this?
Say this in an excitable fashion.
So you're on a submarine, and there is a whole bunch of loot to collect, and there's lots of shooting going on, and it's pretty much awesome if you like submarines.
Mention the crossbows of
crossbows!
the satyrs.
Oh my god, as if you wouldn't want a crossbow. Like, how many other games have crossbows? Probably lots.
Some.
I don't know, some.
Shoot
I don't
the
know, does that sell
satyr
it?
with a crossbow.
Yeah.
What sort of killed me a little bit...
Was
it
a crossbow.
No. It was the satyr. He had the crossbow.
I mean, what killed the enjoyment for me in this game was it's a roguelike. So when you die, you're straight back at the start.
Yeah.
You do unlock sort of things in an achievement-like fashion, like if you clear the floor without jumping, you get a certain power-up that you can use. But it's always frustrating when you die, and it's really easy to die as well. Unfortunately, there's not a health system, there's a heart system. Most of the classes have 4 hearts, so you take 4 hits and then you die.
Ooh.
The only class that I believe is actually playable is the tank, where you get 9 hearts to start out with, but you have a dramatic loss of speed in that case.
Maybe you're just not agile enough, Ray.
Yeah, well...
Well, it's a tank, not a cat.
Yeah,
no,
it's called a tank. Unfortunately, some of the boss fights aren't tuned around all of the classes. For example, as the tank, because I was slower, I couldn't dodge this boss that sort of swoops down at me.
Yeah.
I think that you're supposed to be able to dodge away as one of the faster classes, but as the tank, I couldn't. No matter what I did, I always died after a certain amount of hits. So it needs a little bit of extra work, even though they say that it's a fully functioning and final game.
So that is the question that I've got. Does it feel like a final release, or does it still feel like it's the early access game that it never was?
It does feel a lot like an indie early access game. Yeah. But look, if I've piqued your interest in this, there's one big piece of advice. There's a manual buried within the game files, and you have to sort of go into your Steam folder and then into the apps folder and then blah, blah, blah. Right in there's a manual. And after I read the manual, I was like, okay, I can play this game. But there's nothing within the game itself that points you to the manual.
Right.
Okay.
So it's old school like that, you know. And back in the days when you had to read the manual before you could start playing.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
A mixed review then.
Yeah.
Please send all death threats to razor@zgamesau.net.
So that was Paranautical Activity. It's available on Steam for a pretty cheap price, $10 or $15. We're going to hear some music from that game. I should mention the soundtrack is actually pretty good. It's kind of like chiptune-inspired drum and bass.
Would you say this is your favourite part of the game?
It's one of them. So this one's called The Kraken. You're listening to Z Games. My name is Razor, joined in the studio right now by Jody, Lee, and Miss Candi Payne. And
yes.
Candi, you are going to be telling us all about a game that you've been playing this week called Oscura Second Shadow.
Yes. So I came across this delightful little mobile game. The basic plot is that some evil monster comes along and steals a stone that provides light to the little town or country or whatever it is, and it plunges this area called the Driftlands into darkness. As this thing flies away, it drops a stone that shatters, and your character, Oscura, who is the Guardian of Light, sets out to pick up the pieces and bring light back to the Driftlands. It is very much a Limbo game, and I hate to keep referring to Limbo whenever anybody else designs a platformer like this, but it's just... It looks like it. You're in complete shadow. The background, it's not black and white though. I mean, it's black and red or black and green. So there's no other colours except for the background is one colour and you're in shadow. So
That's
it's quite
so
similar.
Innovative. I mean,
right.
They took the black and white and they made it black and green.
I know. It's very... and it's evil looking.
Now,
it's...
the Game Boy had black and green long before this did.
Yeah, look, it's just a little bit too similar in a few things. I mean, it looks evil because of these colours, it's kind of that evil witch-coloured green, or it's like a real kind of orangey blood red in the background. You're playing a funny little character with glowing eyeballs and, long spindly fingers, and you're pretty much setting out to collect these shards of this stone that has broken, and some cogs. I don't know how the cogs fit into the story, but you collect the cogs. That's great. It is very much designed just for mobile gaming, this one. In fact, it's actually only out on mobile devices and Android, Mac stuff. That's pretty much it. There's these cogs that you collect. Look, it's so similar to other platformers. One of them, you go down a tunnel, a pipe. Same thing. You go down to another level below ground. We all know what game I'm talking about, to collect an extra
Sonic.
bonus shard. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So it's just a little bit too familiar to others. It looks really nice to start with, and I probably got through the first 6 or 7 levels thinking I would be intrigued enough to want to keep playing. I mean, it plays well enough. My biggest issue with any of these kinds of games are really the buttons, the functions. You know, I struggle. Like, I'm playing it on an iPad mini, so it's not a big screen. But my fingers, you know, like, on the left-hand side of the screen is your left and right button. On the right-hand side is your jump button. And so many times I have jumped and thought that I'm moving my character forward, and I've missed by a few millimeters, and I'm just bashing the screen and nothing's happening, and, you know, then I fall and plunge to my death. Also, another similarity to Limbo, when he dies, it's like the same movement. He literally bends at the waist and flops forward. Like, it's quite, like, that's all. It's just a little bit too familiar.
Is there only jumping, or are there other things you can do in this one?
Oh, you can double jump?
Okay.
Is that what you mean?
Well, I was wondering if there were any other controls you had to fuss around with.
Yeah, so the only other control that you've got is, as you're collecting these broken shards of stone, they actually build up a timer or a slow down time function. So when you collect 4 or 5 of those, it builds up. You get a little notification in the screen. You can hit that function to slow everything right down. And, like, it's extreme slowed down. Not necessary for most of the game. Occasionally there's a few levels where you'll see a sign pop up and it warns you that you should be slowing time down. Mostly you can still get through these levels without doing that, but, you know, just slow time down, whatever, take your time doing it, because otherwise the levels are quite short. You're bound to get through them fairly easily. Checkpoints along the way are street lamps that you ignite. That's nice. They are quite close to one another, which is good, because that does eliminate the repetition of having to go back right to the start and do the same thing over and over and over. Nothing in the levels change. Like, I could play the same level 25 times, which I have done because I die so damn frequently. But it's exactly the same. Like, it's timed exactly the same. There is no element of surprise. So I essentially just memorize the level and then run through it. So, yeah, that's that game. It's not...
It's very pointy.
It is very pointy. Like,
everything in here is a spike trying to kill me.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Those are the things that kill you. They're flying spikes, or they're swinging spikes, or they're cogs with spikes, or they're monsters with spiky fingers, or that's it. The end. Like,
you're also quite a pointy thing.
Yeah, your arms are like 10 times too long for your body.
No, I mean you.
Oh. Thanks, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it's not a terrible game. I mean, I'm still playing it. I like it. It's just the levels are very short. Every level is the same. There's kind of no surprise, and they're not puzzles, they're just obstacles.
Man.
Like, I've come across a couple of I'm assuming they're timber crates, because that's what the shadow shape looks like, thinking that, oh my gosh, yes, I get to move it or push it or pull it, lift it up, jump on it, something. No, 89% of the time they do nothing. Like, they serve no purpose, they're just there. But you can move them, but you don't need to, because they're not blocking anything. I mean, once or twice I've had to push it into water so that I don't fall in and, you know, drown, but that's pretty much it. Mostly I just want to know why I'm collecting cogs. I don't know why. To get through and, like, to pass a level and come out with, I think it's 4 stars, you need to, like, complete it in under a minute, collect all 4 cogs. One of them's always hidden in the secret pipe tunnel thing, and all of the little stone shards. So, not the easiest thing to do to get a perfect score. Mostly because it takes way longer than a minute to get through the levels, because I die so many times. But, I mean, look, those that don't die might do better at this. I don't know. So, Oscura, Second Shadows, yeah.
Lee, you're playing the game right now. I just want to verify something. Is Candi's lack of enjoyment on this title due to her incompetence, shall we say?
Hey.
Or is it
No, let's not shall we say. It is not my incompetence. I've got through to level 18 or something.
Or is there something wrong with the control scheme, Lee? I'm just asking you.
Yeah, look, it's a
Jerk.
platformer that asks a lot of you, but you know, like any touch game that has a virtual D-pad, it's
That's the word I was looking for.
It's often kind of biting off more than it can chew.
Because I can see now, I'm watching your thumbs, and you are just making those buttons.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm watching you try and fumble for them. And it's not like they're tiny little things in the corner. They're massive arrows. But for some reason, I still just kind of, I don't know.
So
It's
they
just a bit
haven't
finicky.
they haven't really compensated for the fact that you're using virtual buttons.
No.
Yeah.
Maybe they tested it with a real controller in house.
Yeah, possibly. Or maybe, look, I don't know. Maybe they're just a bit more spread out on this screen. You can turn that off and use your standard, just hold your fingers down and double tap or something to make him jump. But I don't know, that's even more difficult. That's actually far more difficult. So you do need to use the little D-pad. But
I think my problem with it is that while it's doing all the mechanical stuff that Limbo did with the spikes and spinning blades, it's not doing any of the fun stuff that we were talking about earlier.
like puzzles.
Limbo was full of surprising little things that you would see and weird story bits that melded really well into what you were doing on screen.
Yeah,
But this is just,
exactly.
you're in Spike Town and it's dark and spikes are getting you.
Yeah, I've come across a couple of glitches. I mean, nothing major to report, but, like a few times I've loaded the level and it's been black except for his eyeballs. And so I tried to play thinking maybe that was it, and then obviously kept dying. And then after the 5th time I died, the level actually just reloaded properly. And I thought, oh, okay, no, great. So a few things like that, or there's been some rocks missing that you're clearly supposed to jump on, so then you just keep dying and then it suddenly appears again. So a few tiny glitches like that, but I mean, it's not, I am enjoying it. I'm still playing it, just not, fabulous.
Yeah, look, it's competent, and it's, if you've not played Limbo, then it's probably this is great. What a cool aesthetic, and here you are in Spike Town. This is exciting. It's just that, compared to the thing that it is clearly ripping off or riffing on, it's nowhere near as exciting.
Yeah.
That's Oscura's Second Shadow, which is available for the iPad.
Yeah, iPad, iPhone, all your mobile devices, iOS, Android, and Mac products. It's nice that it's on Mac, I give it that.
Now, Lee, you have been playing a game called Helldivers.
Yeah.
Is it a game about diving in hell or diving to hell?
It's more about, I guess it's diving to hell, but only in a metaphorical fashion. You're not actually going to hell ever at all in this game.
It's symbolic diving.
Yeah, because you are some kind of super spaceman guy.
Space Marine?
Space Marine, yes. And you are being launched out of a spaceship, and you do this suborbital crash landing on the surface of a planet to go and do mission stuff. Which, that would be rough. I wouldn't want to just drop out of space onto the surface of a planet to shoot bugs. So that's
No.
why they're called Helldivers, because,
Oh, it's hell.
yeah, that's hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's war is the hell.
Yes.
It's the real hell.
Yeah.
Man.
Yes.
Ah.
And man was the monster all along. So, Helldivers is out right now on the PS4. It is by Arrowhead, who made the Magicka games, which are fun games about wizards who are mostly incompetent and blow up all of their friends. In this game, you are a space marine from Super Earth, and you are largely incompetent, and often you will find yourself blowing up all of your friends. It's fun. It's you play it single player, you should be playing it multiplayer, you should be playing it with friends who don't know what they're doing, because that is the most fun.
Well, then you win.
Well, no, it's not competitive, it's cooperative.
But
look at your
Magicka-
disappointment.
Sorry, I didn't mean to look so disappointed.
Yeah.
Like Magicka, is it just as likely you will accidentally hurt each other as it is you will hurt the alien bugs or whatever?
Oh, yes, yeah. So, friendly fire is always on, and all of your guns are a bit unreliable and a bit frustrating, and everything that you do relies upon you being competent in a way that you are most likely going to be clumsy. So the opponents that you encounter when you are on these hell dives are giant alien bugs or gross cyborg marine guys and weird crystal and robot-y alien things.
Yep.
But they're not a significant threat. They will overwhelm you if you're not paying attention, but the real enemy here is your clumsy human hands. And
Fingers are the real monsters.
yeah, and the fact that your friend wasn't paying attention and great, he just shot you to death. It is tremendous fun. I'm doing a bad job of explaining why it's great. So everything is a very deliberate action, and everything is has a bit of a trade-off to it. So when you land on the planet, you can choose wherever you want on the mission map you want to land, but that doesn't necessarily mean, like, if you land right beside the missile site that you're trying to activate, that might not be a significant benefit. But it feels like a fun choice where you're like, where do we crash down? And then you get to select it. And when you bring up your map, that means that your guy has to put down his gun, and then he's bringing up the map, and then you can like look at the map and wiggle it around and stuff, but suddenly you're very vulnerable. It means that you can see enemy patrols, but you can't do anything about them because they'll be right nearby based on the pinging from your central location. So everything has a little trade-off to it like that. So your guns are powerful, but their aiming is generally a bit excitable. They take a long time to reload. They don't have much ammunition. So you have these dumb weapons that are great to use, but also incredibly lethal because most likely, like, you'll have a friend who'll be doing something and be like, oh, there are bugs coming to get you, and he will fire his gun and hit you as well, and then that's unfortunate. If you die in the middle of one of these missions, is that it for that level, or do you respawn? No, what happens is that the great thing about the game, so it's a twin-stick shooter. You're a very chunky little tiny guy with a cool cape and power armor running around the surface of a planet. What makes it really exciting is the way that they use this hell diving concept. So anything that you want to bring into the game to assist you, you have to requisition, and then it gets dropped from the spaceship orbiting the planet onto the field. So to do that, you've got to bring up a little list of commands with each of the, like, I think 5 or 6 or things that you've chosen that you would like to be able to bring in. And then you have to input this command code with the directional pad. So suddenly you have to put in a code that might be, simple things just like up, 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 down, but some of them are really complicated, and if you stuff it up, you got to start again. And usually you're doing this while bugs are coming to get you.
Oh, no.
That sounds like the way spellcasting works in Magica, with different letters on the keyboard you have to press.
That's right, yeah. It's that same kind of tension there where, just something as simple as getting in like a heavy machine gun or a turret means that you are having to concentrate on putting in this little code competently. And then once that's done, that means that you've got a little beacon that you can throw, and that will get this thing to eventually drop. But what's cool about it is that just as it was when you crash landed on the planet, this is a physical object that's being launched from space. So anything underneath that beacon, like, say, space aliens, or maybe your over-eager friend awaiting his machine gun, will be squashed flat. So those suddenly become ballistic objects on the game. And if you start to die, when you start to die, you drop to the ground and you can crawl about as you bleed out and fire your pistol. If you have a friend nearby, they can pick you back up. But you can also, if they die out completely, or you know that you're about to die out, you can requisition reinforcements. Which, if you time it right, you can just do this yourself, but otherwise you can just, put the code in if your friend is dead. They will, again, also just drop in at the same point. So you can, think that you're going fine, and, you're about to get your reinforcement from your co-op buddy, and then you forget that you're actually standing on the beacon again, and the guy who you have just saved has just crushed you to death with his hell diving arrival to help finish the mission. So everything has the element where everything is a physical object that is likely to flatten you, and everything is clumsy and cumbersome. But the missions are designed so that they're very small, simple little things that you're doing. Most of them are just like, go here and defend this site, or activate this missile silo, or clear out this area. And you think, well, this is super easy. Like, I was playing with my friend on the weekend, and we were like, I can activate this code, that's fine. But you get cocky, and everything will cost you. So we'd cleared out the missiles, we were going back to the beacon to call our spaceship back down to come and pick us up, which again, a massive spaceship lands with a thump on the planet's surface. So again, you have to make sure you're not in that zone or you'll be crushed to death by the very machine coming to pick you up. So we cleared the mission. We had a cool new gun that we wanted to try out. We're like, it's fine. Spaceship's there, ready to go. Let's shoot some bugs. But that attracted more bugs, which overwhelmed us. Maybe there was some friendly fire involved. Someone put down a turret. Turrets are great, because they'll just shoot anything that's nearby. But if there's a bug on the other side of you, if you're between the turret and the bug,
you're a goner.
It will shoot straight through you to take out that terrible foe. So you have to hit the dirt, and then you're crawling around on the ground, and all you can do is crawl, and that's it.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
This sounds great.
Yeah.
And different. This sounds so different. That's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, for me, it feels a lot like, almost like Dark Souls, because Dark Souls is another game where you're clumsy and cumbersome, but it uses that to ramp up that tension and make everything feel weird and unnerving. But this has those same sorts of tools where it's fun. It's fun that everyone is stuffing up.
Yeah.
And when someone's like, "Hey, I've got this new shotgun. I'm going to help you with those bugs," and it just blows your head right off. That just elicits giggles,
That's awesome.
So you've been talking about Helldivers, which is available for the PS4, which you reviewed it on, but it's also available for the PS Vita as well.
Yes, it is. Yeah, there's apparently cross-play, so that would be fun.
So can PS Vita owners and PS4 owners play together, do you think?
I think they might at least be able to do co-op, local co-op together. I'm not sure what the multiplayer situation is like there.
Cool. Thanks, Lee. Now, Jody, you have been playing Druids Duel.
Yeah, I have. This is a turn-based strategy game that I've been playing on the PC. And in this one, you control druids who are fighting with a gang of other druids for islands in the sky. There are these square, floating sections of grass, and you want to control more of them than the other druids. So you cast spells to summon different kinds of druids and then hop them around, and each of them moves differently, kind of like chess pieces.
Yep.
So there are hammer druids who can move 3 spaces, and there are archer druids, and they can only move 1, but they can attack someone who is 2 squares away. They all have different rules, so you need to memorize which one you can use to counter which ones, and it feels a lot like moving like your knights around in chess, only if the chessboard was a floating island in the sky. The other thing that's interesting is that each druid can transform into an animal. So those archer druids can turn into eagles, and you have spear druids who turn into wolves, and the hammer druids turn into bears, and the wand druids turn into a big, ugly turtle.
Whoa.
And then they have completely different movesets that they can use when they're an animal, which ramps up the complexity quite a lot. So wolves are fast, but can't attack, which is odd. It took me a while to realize, why can't my wolves eat people? But they're actually just for racing around, snatching up territory, rather than attacking someone, whereas eagles can kill people, but that's all they do. They just leap up into the air and kill a person on the other side of the map. So again, you have to learn a completely different set of counters for all of the animal versions of the druids. And you have the same druids and the same animals as your opponent, so you know that they can do to you exactly what you're doing to them, which means you can learn tactics by watching what the other druids do, but also know that as soon as you figure something clever out, that the computer probably knows how to do it, and next level will probably be doing the same thing to you.
Right. How does the game progress? Is it different boards or environments that you're in? Or
Yeah, each map is a different shaped level where the islands connect to each other in a different way, and as soon as you control all of the territory on that map, you go to the next map, which is a different, maybe slightly larger section of floating islands, and sometimes they're connected together by bridges. Sometimes you have to cast spells to make new bridges to fly around or turn into an eagle to hop around. So it does get more complicated as you go on because the shape of the board that you're on is always changing.
Okay. I don't know why, but the minute you started talking about spells and floating worlds and things, my mind went to Terry Pratchett type Discworld imagery. Is that what does it look like? I just need to picture this in my head.
It looks very cartoony.
Okay.
It actually, we were talking about Magicka before. The druids remind me of the Magicka wizards because they're faceless and they just have big hoods on, so you can't see anything except robes and a spear sticking out of the end of it. And when they turn into animals, the animals are quite cartoony as well. Like the turtle, for some reason, is encrusted with gems.
Oh.
Just like a bling all over him.
Why not?
And the point of the turtle is that they can't be attacked, so you turn into a turtle and then you just sit there and you block the enemies. Whereas the bears go on rampages. They can move 3 squares and kill someone on every square they move through.
So this is a 1 versus 1 sort of dueling strategy game, right?
That's right.
So your opponent, does he have exactly the same set of pieces that you do?
Yeah, that's right, and can summon new ones each turn and can cast the same spells, like one that summons bridges or obstacles that you can scatter around that can't be moved through, or you can cast spells to remove obstacles and do the same thing. The mana points you use to cast those spells with come directly from the land, so you win the game by controlling all of the land, but you also gain more spell points every turn by controlling it. Like, some bits of land are a different color and they're worth more, and the green ones are only worth 1 or 2 points. But you don't keep the mana between turns, so every turn you have a fresh 20 or 30 points to cast your spells and summon your guys, and then that all goes away and you get the amount next turn for how much territory you have left. So as you're taking the other guy's territory, you're reducing how much they can do on their turn and vice versa, which means, like, the start of each level is interesting because you're jockeying for position, and maybe the first thing you do is turn your cruddy little spear guys into wolves and then race around, or maybe the first thing that they do is go for hawks and fly to the far corners and start moving around, capturing territory more slowly but in the further corners. And then in the middle, it's interesting because you actually start hitting each other, and there's a lot of sudden back and forth. Like, there are no hit points. It's just if you move onto someone's square, they're dead. And so it's quite quick and nasty. But then the end game for every level becomes this thing of having to hunt down every last square of territory because you have to control the entire map to win. And once you have more than half of the territory, your opponent has drastically less mana than you. So there's just not very much they can do to stop you because you can cast more spells, you can summon more guys. So they're just sort of fighting this guerrilla war to annoy you while you slowly slog your way into the corners of the map. It's like playing Warcraft and having to hunt down the last peon in the corner.
Yeah. Right.
So every time I start playing, I'm enjoying it until the end, and it's always an anticlimax.
That's a shame. Jody, we're nearly out of time, but this Druids Duel actually sounds pretty good to me. Can you just run us past like how you can get it?
You can get it on Steam and on tablets, and it's $10 on Steam at the moment. It feels to me like it would be better as a board game, though. Like, it's the kind of thing where I don't want to have to play it to the end, whereas if I was playing with a friend, we could just agree, okay, I give up. That would be perfect.
Cool. So you played it on the PC, though?
That's right.
Yep. Thank you very much, Jody, and that is our show for this week. Thank you very much, guys, for listening. I will be back next week at the same time. See you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.